back again with another video. I've spent the last week, about 2 weeks, using an iPad Air, and then I got the Nexus 9, and this is my Asus VivoTab 8. And what I'm going to do in this video is I'm just going to give you my impressions of iOS and Android coming from a Windows user, and show you some of the things that I found that were good on both platforms, some that I didn't really like, and then I'm going to compare them to each other, and then I'm going to compare what that experience was like using a Windows tablet. So let's start off with the iOS device. So right out of the bat, the thing that impressed me the most about the iPad Air is the battery life. I took this thing out of the box, had about 85% juice. I did not charge it. I used it for a good 3 days, 4 days. Did not charge it. At that time, I got the Nexus 9. I started using the Nexus 9, left the iPad Air in its box for a few more days. In total, it was almost 7 days from the time I got the iPad Air before it got down to 7% and told me I need to plug it in. That in itself is amazing. The Nexus 9, on the other hand, within the first 2 days, it was dead. And so, first thing I got to say is the iPad Air, phenomenal battery life. Out of these 3 tablets that I have, by far, iPad Air, best battery life. The other thing about the Air, no surprise, it has the best build quality. This feels like a simply awesome device in the hand, and it was a joy actually using it. I didn't use the fingerprint scanner. I think that would have, made this even better to use. So, coming from a Windows user, watching all the hype over the iPad, I have to say that some of that hype is real. The iPad is an awesome device. Now, one of the things I wanted to do was to light this thing up with the same types of accounts and tools that I would use on my Windows tablet, just to see how it would perform. So the first thing I did is I installed my email. So I've got 3 mailboxes in here: my Outlook or my Hotmail account, my Exchange, which is my work account, and Gmail. So Outlook, Exchange, Gmail. Now, one of the things that I don't really like about the iOS mail device is that when I go into, let's say I go into my Gmail and I go into inbox here, this is what I can see. I'm not used to this. I'm used to seeing all of my text in the preview, not just this half of the screen. And I don't know, maybe there's a way to make it do that. I'm not sure, but I don't like the fact that I can only see a little bit in the preview. I want to see a preview of all my emails and then tap on the one I want to open up. So in order to read this, I've got to tap on it, and it's going to open up here. If I do landscape mode, you get the ability for this thing to stay, and you can scan through your emails quite easily. But again, I can't read the whole preview. I like to read the previews of the emails before I decide to open them, especially on my work emails. But that's just one little gripe that I have. I like the all inbox, where everything kind of shows up in one inbox. Not sure how often I would use it. I've kind of gotten used to not doing that because, as you can see, I've got a lot of unread emails, and I don't necessarily want all of these in one mailbox. I'm pretty sure you could probably choose which ones go into that all mailbox. But the mail app is an awesome app. No other complaints from this. It worked perfectly. It was a little jumping through some hoops to get my Outlook installed on here because I had the two-step authentication, and I couldn't use that on the iPad. I had to use an app password in order to get my Hotmail or Outlook to work, but it did, and works well. The other thing that I really liked about the iPad is the calendar, and the thing that I liked the most about the calendar is that when you have your events that are coming up, on the right hand side it lists the details, including who is coming to that meeting. I thought that was awesome, actually. I have problems with the Windows version giving me that information, and I thought this view in the iOS version was great. So it worked really well in terms of my calendars. So you can see it sort of brought everything in together, Gmail and Exchange and my Outlook or Hotmail calendar as well. So they all sort of came in to one with the color coding, which is great. Worked perfectly. So no complaints there, and I really like this layout there. So that's mail, that's calendar. Worked well with my iOS, my Microsoft tools. So then I went on to installing certain tools that I would use every day from Microsoft. So for example, Office and Perfect Timing. Office is now free on the iPad, and I have to say it's very impressive. So it's very quick, very snappy. Um, it's a joy to use, actually. For if I was going to use an iPad and had to quickly type out Word documents and put some presentations together, uh, it would be totally awesome. I think Microsoft did a really good job on this app, uh, these Office apps, and as a Windows user, I'm a little bit jealous I don't have a touch version, but at the same time, Microsoft has done a good job, and I can't really fault them. So one of the apps that I use a lot on my Windows tablet is Outlook, and this is where the it sort of falls down a little bit here. Not because Outlook doesn't work. Outlook works just great. But I like to ink. So because there's no real inking here. It's you can't really write with a pen. I suppose I could use a capacitive stylus, but I'm so used to the Wacom style pen that it's a shame that the iPad doesn't have that. I mean, if the iPad had that, I can tell you right now that this would be a viable replacement for my Asus tablet there, because when I go to meetings, I make notes on my tablet. I've been doing that for the last 4 years. So the iPad, the only reason I wouldn't use it is because I can't ink on here without, using a capacitive stylus, which I don't really like using. But I mean, it is possible. Outlook worked fine. It brought in all my notebooks, and all my inking information came over. So again, excellent job from Microsoft bringing the Windows user experience over in terms of these apps. So some of the other apps that I use, Facebook, Twitter, you've seen those. They work fine. Smart glass. My Xbox One is not on right now. But here's one of the things that I did have that I found a little cumbersome. So being a Microsoft user, for each of these services that require a Microsoft account, I have to sign in. And I've got a two-step authentication. So for each one of them, I've got to put in my ID, put in my password, reach for my phone, and use the security setting to get in. It's great, except I had to do this for every single app. I had to do it for OneNote. I had to do it for the Xbox One. I had to do it for Skype. I had to do it for OneDrive. So for every single one, I had to set that up. You do it once, and after that, it's fine. I suppose if I went ahead and I changed my password or changed something and made it lose that connection, I have to do it all over again. That's the only thing I found a little bit cumbersome. So again, the remote desktop app worked perfectly. It has a great mode where you can either emulate a mouse pointer with your touch or just touch itself. It worked perfectly. Would allow me to manage and maintain the servers from an iPad without any problem whatsoever. YouTube, Skype. One of the things about the iPad, you all know this, I don't have to say it, it's got apps. And I was, again, very impressed, very happy with the amount of apps and things that I could download and make work. The only thing, like I said, that I didn't enjoy is having to configure each and every one of these apps. And, I suppose that's true across the board. If I was using all Apple, I guess my initial Apple ID login would have gotten me access to all the Apple stuff. Same thing on the Windows tablet. Once I log in on the Windows tablet once, all those programs kind of use the same login. So I can't really fault the iPad for that. The screen's beautiful, lightweight, battery lasts long. Browsing was fine. There was one weird thing that I found. I found that if I'm in an email and I click on the link, it seems to work really fast there. Actually, yeah, this worked really fast, but there was some scenarios where I click on the link and I'd wait, 5 seconds before the web browser would show up, and I didn't understand why, but that seemed to work really fast. The other thing that, wow, as a Windows tablet user, you are going to have to get used to this. Swiping from the edges don't do anything. At least not in every single app. Swiping from the edges when you are in the browser, I can jump to another page here. So swiping from the edges when you're in a browser brings you back to the previous page. So you can go back and forth. Very easy. And I have to say, when you do this on the Windows tablet, the page reloads. When you do it here, it's instant. Microsoft, pay attention. This is what we want. You want to be able to do that, and instantly the page is there. There's no reloading. The iPad can do it. Windows tablet's got to be able to do it, guys. Come on. So I found myself swiping from the bottom, thinking I'm getting the settings for the app, but of course you're not. Swiping from the top to close, but you get your notification center. So you got to get used to that. So multitasking is a little weird. Of course, you can do the, I don't even know what you call this gesture, the four-finger swipe or something, and you can switch between apps. I don't know where they came up with that. That's the stupidest thing I've ever seen. But, I guess it works. And, it's like swiping from the edges with the Windows tablets. So it's a quick way to jump between applications. Certainly double tapping on here. I found double tapping and closing the app was a hit and miss. Sometimes I'd swipe up like that and it would move over, and that became a little bit annoying. But those are little things. This tablet is just absolutely great. Works fine with Microsoft as a Microsoft user. If you're an inker, if you like to ink, you're not going to be able to beat certain Windows tablets. But the iPad, man, Microsoft adding Office to the iPad, for 90% of the people, I don't know why they'd buy a Windows tablet. I really don't know, and I think as a Windows developer, well, that kind of stings. But wow, this device is made nicely. It's got apps. It's yeah, it's true. The hype is real. The iPad Air is an awesome tablet.